Today we're going to cover the back through obstacle and ranch trail. So note it is an obstacle. That means there'll be other things. It is not a maneuver. You won't see it on its own. So the back through could be backing through cones. It could be backing and weaving through cones. It could be backing through barrels. It could be backing through hay bales. It could be backing through stumps. It could be an L. It could also be the U like we have set up here. It could be a chute, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes. It has to be an obstacle, okay? And it is required, so you will see it in every ranch trail class that is actually following the rules. So this is the back through chute, and this could be hay bales, this could be anything, flowers set up along the side. In our case, we're using poles. So usually how this maneuver is approached is we'll come through the chute, we'll line up with our hind leg in line with here, add degree of difficulty if you want to be farther away. We're going to back up, we're going to push the hip, we may push the hip back over depending on our horse, or we may bring the shoulders over. Generally, you're still going to have to back up to show that you can back up, turn, and back up in this chute. Sometimes you'll see that you have to line yourself up from another obstacle, which depends on whatever the course is, and then back in. It's possible you don't always walk through it. Depending on where you're showing at the lower level, it's always easier to be able to walk through it first and then back up so the horse can see what's going on with the obstacle. So next we're going to cover the back up L/U. So really the U is just two L's put together. We'll go over how to set this up in a minute. So again, lower level, we're going to approach this by coming through and then backing up. Higher degree of difficulty is farther away you go from the pole when you start to back up, or farther distance away from the U, you end your back up. It's going to be pretty straightforward. You're going to back up your horse. Couple tricks, don't look back and keep moving. Make sure you stop when you move, when you're looking, so that you don't guide your horse. Once you get to this stage, the back feet about here, you're going to push the hip. Depending, you have two options here. You can push back up a step and push the hip again, or you can stop here after you push the hip one step, then move the shoulders, continue back, feet foot by the poles, push the hip, move the shoulder, back up, and then again, the farther away you go, the higher the level of difficulty. So remember that ranch trail is always about being efficient. Okay, that's really what it's all about. So when you're showing at a higher level, or you want to add a degree of difficulty, you don't want to actually stop, move the hip, move the shoulder. That's all going to come into one movement. That's why some people like to move the hip and then ask for a step back, move the hip, ask for a step back. I tend to move the shoulder, but that's just my preference. There's no requirement in the class description of how you need to do that. So it's whatever works for you. That just works for me. And when I'm teaching this, I want to make sure I have those two maneuvers. I need to be able to move my shoulders, and I need to be able to move my hips. So turn on the forehand, turn on the haunches before I can actually come in and do this obstacle. So you can do this obstacle and set up without this pole and this pole. We set it up like this because we also use it as a grid. And we've talked about the distances between poles being 2, 3, and 6. Walk 2, jog 3, lope 6. 2 times 3 is 6. So how that works, and this one's not set up correctly because somebody moved it on me. You should have 6 feet inside this pole. 1, 2, 3. And then you should have a distance between this pole. I'm actually going to use this later for a lesson, and I want them to set it up correctly, so I don't want to make it too simple. And the distance between the poles and the L should be 3 feet. Okay? Now, when you go and actually show ranch trail, it's going to be a little bit bigger than that, but you're probably going to have a little bit more horse, or you're going to be a little bit nervous, and that's all going to make it work out. You're not going to see a huge difference, but there's a little bit more wiggle room in ranch trail rather than our city trail. So how we use this here is that we'll trot down here. So we've got 3-foot stride for the trot. We've got 2 3-foot strides for the trot. Another 3-foot stride for the trot, and then we're out of the box. We can do it sideways as well. So it just gives us a lot of options for schooling at home. You can add more poles on the side. You can do the U and side pass over this last pole. Just try and stick with your consistent distances so you know what you're riding and where you've got your horse comfortable. Okay, so here's our back through weave. These could be cones in your course. They could be little stumps. They could be bales of hay. They could be a variety of ranch related things. So generally you might weave through them and then back up through them. You might just trot alongside them and then back and weave. So generally what I think is if I have to stop to back up, I'm going to stop with my back hind foot at the cone. And it's the same process. You're going to move the hip, and then you can slightly bring the shoulder in front. You're going to move the hip, slightly bring the shoulder in front. So just for time's sake, I'm going to just use 3 clones a little closer together so I don't have to walk. So what I see people do at the local level is they get here and then they push the hip, and then it's way out, pushing over there. And then they've got to push, then they back a step, then they've got to push it back. And then they end up way over here from the cone, and then they push the hip way over here. So it's all very extreme. Remember that ranch trail is efficient. So much like when you want to trot these cones, you stay really close to them. You want to do the same when you're backing. So you probably stop here, just tilt the hip a little this way, and then as you get past this cone, you should be able to pull that right rein a little harder in your back up if you have 2 hands. And you might just put an outside leg back so that you end up right here. Make this efficient. Don't make it big loops around the cones. Okay, so now let's talk penalties. So each, what they call a hit, a bite, or a step on is a -1 penalty. Okay, if you evade or step out of an obstacle, so your horse gets its hip back here, it steps out with this foot, 3-point penalty. Every time it does that. So if it happens over here, and then you back up, and you get stuck in the corner and it does this, that's another 3-point penalty. And then you put it back, and then it steps out over here. We're now at 9 points in penalties on 1 obstacle. Okay, the idea is to try and stay out of the penalty box. So if that horse steps out with more than 2 feet, 2 feet or more, 1 foot, more than 1 foot is, I think is what it says. So that means if it steps out with 2 feet, 1, 2, -5. If it steps back in and does it again, we're at -10. If it evades an obstacle and steps out. So it's pretty much the same thing as just stepping out. So you might, the difference is that evade will happen before you enter the obstacle.